In the vast tapestry of history, certain individuals shine like stars, their names etched into the annals of time. Yet, there are others whose stories remain concealed, their remarkable deeds hidden from the spotlight. One such extraordinary figure is Lozen, an Apache female warrior whose tale embodies courage, resilience, and a spirit that knew no bounds. As we unravel the untold story of Lozen, we come to realize that history has not always bestowed recognition upon those who deserve it most. Yet, her memory persists as a testament to the countless unsung heroes who have shaped the course of human existence. Join us as we delve into the enigmatic life of Lozen, the most feared Apache female warrior, and uncover the profound impact on her actions on the tumultuous tapestry of history. Let her tale inspire us to embrace the strength within and remind us that even in the face of adversity, the power of the human spirit can overcome all challenges. Native American warriors such as Sitting Bull or Lakota, Tecumseh or Shawnee, and Geronimo or Apache have long been thought as safeguards of indigenous lands. Their valiant resistance in opposition to foreign invaders contributed to their cultural survival. Lozen, an Apache or Nda woman who went to war with European dominance, was a lesser-known fighter. Lozen was a warrior shaman and humanitarian in nature, known for her bravery, skill as a soldier, and commitment to her people's safety during a highly turbulent era in the Apache history. For 30 years, she fought against Mexican and American soldiers, which earned her the title Apache Joan of Arc. She grew up as a member of the Warm Spring Apache Band. Her father was the band's leader. Lozen began mastering the art of fighting and horseback riding at a young age. While most girls her age and society were preoccupied with housework, cooking, and early weddings, Lozen was preoccupied with military plans, sword combat, and archery. The supreme chief of the tribe she belonged to deemed her capable of participating in the war. Lozen was able to ride on a horse and shoot. She is additionally believed to have utilized supernatural abilities to keep an eye on the enemies. She was a close friend of Apache Chief Geronimo and the sister of Apache Chief Victorio. Although these guys are more well known to historians, Lozen is still considered a legend on behalf of her people. "Lozen is my right hand," Victorio pointed out of his sister once. "Strong as a man should be, braver than most, and strategically astute. She protects her people." She had been born in the Cheyenne Apache Band at Ojo Caliente, New Mexico, around 1840. In what was then known as Apacheria, there were at least 7 Apache tribes and many clans living in what is now the northern part of Mexico, the eastern part of Arizona, and the southern part of New Mexico. The Cheyenne Band, which is additionally referred to as the Eastern Chiricahua or Red Paint People, had been identified by the red clay band worn around their faces during rituals. Apache tribes were well known for raiding and were always on the lookout for targets. Joey Padilla, a traditional doctor and museum curator at the Mescalero Apache Reservation in New Mexico, claims that the Apache had previously been nomads. "These men have never stayed somewhere for long," he announced. Lozen's name, which means dexterous horse thief, symbolizes her ability to infiltrate behind the lines of the enemy undetected, draw out gathered horses, and steal them. During an extended period of near constant conflict, her stealth and courage would prove invaluable. When she reached the age of majority, Lozen started to battle Mexican soldiers and scalp hunters, her band's eternal enemies. She battled again after Americans appeared in 1849 to lay claim to her homeland. Peter Ailshire says in his novel Warrior Woman, the story of Lozen, Apache warrior and shaman. Lozen has sparked debate among academics, with some dismissing her as a literary fiction. Eve Ball, an internationally recognized Apache historian, first learned about Lozen's stories while researching her 1970s novel In the Days of Victorio. Lozen's prior anonymity was due to Apache's reluctance to acknowledge that an unmarried woman was accompanied by men on raids, according to Ball. Lozen excelled at taking rides on horses, shooting, roping, and horse theft, according to her sources. and Victoria regarded her on the same level as other men in combat and would not embark on a raid without her. She was born and raised in a matriarchal society with a divinity known as White Painted Woman at the core of her creation tale, and she realized early on that women were essential for survival. Lozen went through a difficult childhood at a young age. She had a lovely family and a nice household, but the fact that her dad told stories about Mexicans entering their home frightened her to the core. When she returned from playing with her brother, US military personnel were attempting to lure them with lavish presents and asking them to leave the area and relocate to an alternate location. When the Apaches refused the offer, the armed forces began firing at them. Lozen fled with her brother Victorio, but several members of the band were killed. It had a terrible and terrifying effect on infant Lozen's mind. She then vowed that she would preserve her kingdom and the population there at whatever cost. Her youthful eyes saw several conflicts and many horrible deaths. During so-called peace talks between Indian council members and the gold hunters, Apaches were frequently slain. They wanted vengeance for every life lost at the hands of their adversaries. Mexican prisoners were periodically abducted and presented before the tribe, chained and gagged. The daughters, wives, and mothers of the dead Apaches would then slay the males. Lozen watched as they dismembered the miners with knives or crushed their hands under the weight of their horses. The strong counterattack eventually caused the Mexicans to quit the area and flee south. However, the Apaches' problems were far from done. She was revered as a warrior lady in her day. According to Padilla, the Apaches were constantly accompanied by a woman who walked directly behind the man who was carrying a knife or gun. You had to deal with the woman as well if the man passed away. Women protected their children from harm as well. Apache kept their tight gender norms and lived with a highly regimented existence. The female members gathered food and helped with home chores. During the battle, Apache women were taught to gather items from their homes and flee to a safe location. They would get up before dawn and each sprint to the top of the mountain as part of their rigorous physical training. Lozen carved out a niche for herself at the time. She was an excellent runner and a talented horse rider. Lozen was capable of using a spear, bow, and rifle. She would train her young generations in sword fighting and horseback riding. Lozen had never been married and never had children. She adored children and wished she could have her own. However, her personal difficulties prevented her from giving birth to her children. She recognized her own kid in Apache kids and gave up on her life for the protection and improvement of the children in her community. A girl named Datesta, one of the members of the Chokonen band and an effective warrior, accompanied Lozen on several raids to protect people. According to Apache tales, Lozen and Datesta were regular partners at this period. In a famous shot of the Chiricahuas taken immediately after the captivity, they looked snuggled together. In the 1930s, Apache informants informed anthropologist Morris Opler about two nameless women who lived together and had sexual intercourse while imprisoned, unquestionably Lozen and Datesta. The Treaty of Hidalgo established New Mexico as a U.S. territory in 1848. A gold rush in California that year drew a few thousand mine workers through Apacheria. Lozen, when she was 12, went through puberty religious events in which she walked on her own into the mountain terrain and, allegedly according to oral legend, got a mystical ability to find enemy soldiers. According to Harlan Geronimo, Geronimo's great-grandson, Lozen would raise the palms of her hand and take walks in a circle, as long as the veins in her arms became dark blue, signaling the exact location from which the enemy would certainly approach. With this kind of help, Apaches could foresee the enemy's next move and plan their next step accordingly. It also assisted her in avoiding being captured by the enemy. She was frequently compared to her European counterpart, Joan, due to her God-given ability to sense the enemy's presence. The conversation between Geronimo and Lozen is passed down through the generations. Geronimo saw Lozen closing her eyes hard. A blast of wind blew across her little figure, flinging her straight black hair around. "Can you let me know if someone from the armed forces is nearby?" he inquired gently. "I can," she said. For a few moments, she stood motionless, her arms outstretched and her hands slightly cupped. She said, The god Lozen has granted me this ability. It's good for the reason he's good." Geronimo with his men stood there, waiting for Lozen's response. Her eyes sparkled as she opened them. She was frequently driven to tears by the strength she had been endowed with. She felt not worthy of such a wonderful gift. She looked into Geronimo's eyes, and she turned to face the proud faces of the waiting warriors. "Rest easy," she said. "There is no enemy nearby tonight." In 1861, Chokonen Chiricahua chief Cochise was wrongly accused of taking away a rancher's son, leading to a 24-year battle between the United States and a number of Apache clans. Cochise and an additional chief led 200 warriors to combat at Apache Pass in 1862, but were driven back and scattered by howitzer artillery fire. Lozen went to war at Apache Pass, was admitted into the council as a warrior, and battled for years in the struggle for their home nation alongside her brother Victorio. Lozen was believed to have been involved in a horse attack at Fort Craig, where Apaches fully equipped with weapons such as bows and arrows robbed the troops of their horses. In 1869, she attended an official meeting with Victorio and other Apache chiefs to create a reserve plan near Ojo Caliente, but they were eventually relocated to the harsher circumstances of the San Carlos Reserve in Arizona. Victorio, Lozen, and other Chihen walked away from San Carlos in 1877, eventually choosing battle over returning. They parted ways to avoid capture, and Lozen subsequently guided an entire group of women and children across the roaring Rio Grande River in Mexico. An infant, James Kewetla, remembers riding alongside his grandmother when the Cheyenne tribe escaped American soldiers. Kewetla claimed to have seen a magnificent woman riding an absolutely beautiful horse while carrying a firearm above her head. Lozen rode back over the Rio Grande and rejoined the combat once the party arrived in Mexico, soaking wet and cold, but alive. Lozen once left the band in order to assist a young pregnant lady in crossing Mexico's Chihuahuan Desert back to her home located on the Mescalero Apache reservations, armed with a single gun, a cartridge belt, a knife, as well as a 3-day ration of food. During their voyage, she hid the expecting mother and supported her in labor and delivery, slaughtered and butchered a longhorn cow, and eventually caught 2 horses. Lozen assisted the lady into the foliage and, after she was confident they couldn't be seen, let the pregnant mother give birth. Lozen sat with a gun across her knees, watching the horsemen approach with wary eyes. She put her palm over the Mescalero woman's lips to hide her sobs. When the infant arrived, Lozen cut the cord with a piece of blank flint and tied off the stump with yucca string. The tiny boy moaned slightly. Lozen prayed over him and handed him back to his mother. She drew her rifle and glanced out into the dense undergrowth at the troops. One of the scouts appeared to be looking their way. She pressed her finger towards the gun's trigger. She was going to have to shoot if he went too close. Just as the scout approached the 3, he came to a halt, turned around, and galloped away. Lozen, the mother of the child, and her boy had been left alone. Victorio was murdered in an assault at Tres Castillos, as well as several other Apaches. Some speculated that Victorio was unlikely to have been ambushed if Lozen had been present. She and the other Apaches managed to elude the US cavalry for an additional 5 years. The Apache people were resentful and enraged after being separated from their families and driven from their country. Lozen defended her people with savage raids and essential battle tactics. They were pursued throughout the terrain like a cat and mouse game. Lozen and the Apache people sought survival from New Mexico through Arizona and south into Mexico. Lozen rode in tandem with Geronimo right after Victorio died. She went along with him in a raid that rescued 600 individuals from San Carlos in 1882, and she again aided him on his very last escape from the reserve in 1885. Geronimo opted to give himself up in 1886 to secure the safety of his surviving followers, according to his family members. Geronimo, Lozen, and the others were shortly thereafter sent to Florida jails. The Apache were unaccustomed to their new environment, and many are claimed to have died from illnesses like diphtheria and tuberculosis. Lozen was one of them, since she died from tuberculosis in 1889. She died due to illness in Alabama at the age of 50, but some of her family members made it back west. She was laid to rest in a grave that was unmarked in Alabama. People later discovered it and paid their respect, and an inscription was engraved on the gravestone. After the wars were over, we brought numerous of the Chiricahua from Florida, Jory Padilla explains. He claims that his Mescalero reservation group follow the women's coming-of-age practices that Lozen took part in over 180 years ago. The surrounding community also continues to honor Lozen's legacy. The descendants of Lozen's ancestors are here currently with us in our community, Padilla explains. She was remembered as a brave woman and one of the best warriors that history has seen. Her gift from God, her wisdom and courage made her like that. Many men in that field could not approach her. There were a small number of such capable women at that time. They all wanted a family and housework while leaving the fight to the men, but not her. She was different in everything, and that's why she stood out the most from the others. She had her goal, and she stuck to it while she kept everything else in another place. A skilled fighter and a caring member of society. What more can be asked from such a woman? Many in today's world would envy her. There were several people that history will remember, but she is special. A gift from God meant for her and her people? Coincidence or not, it remains a mystery. The reality of Pocahontas' life is a tale far removed from the whimsy of animation. Beneath the veneer of a harmonious narrative lies a tumultuous and harrowing true story that challenges our perceptions. When examining Pocahontas' life, it becomes evident that the Disney adaptation painted an idealized picture vastly different from the actual historical record. Let the numbers speak. Pocahontas was not even her original name. Native American naming traditions embraced fluidity, evolving with a person's growth. Born as Amanute, she later became known as Matawaka, symbolizing the flower between two streams. A key member of the Powhatan tribe in eastern Virginia, she was part of a community comprising over 25,000 individuals, divided into 30 smaller tribes under the governance of respected village leaders. The narrative takes a darker turn as the Anglo-Powhatan War ignites, exposing Pocahontas to unspeakable terrors. Kidnapped and raped, she falls victim to English men seeking leverage against her father. Her husband's valiant efforts fail, and Pocahontas becomes a pawn in a grim game. Her struggles intensify, culminating in her marriage to John Rolfe. The stark age difference and the forced conversion to Christianity underline the unsettling power dynamics of the time. But this is just a snapshot of Pocahontas' life. Did you know she was almost sacrificed? Or that she was portrayed as a savage Native American by her own husband? The story of Pocahontas is much darker than we have heard of on a surface level. So let's get into the details. In the heart of Native American culture, young Amanute, who would later become known as Pocahontas, was destined to play a significant role. This pivotal figure emerged from the Powhatan tribe, a complex and thriving indigenous community situated in eastern Virginia during the early 1600s. Native American naming traditions differed significantly from those of European societies. Children were not bestowed permanent names at birth. Instead, names evolved with growth and experiences. This concept of fluid identity marked the first departure from conventional Western customs. Born Amanute, her name shifted as she matured and her character blossomed. As her father recognized her emerging beauty, she was christened Matawaka, which poetically translates to the flower between two streams. This tradition highlighted the tribe's intimate connection with nature and its unique approach to personal identity. Pocahontas' life unfolded within the intricate tapestry of the Powhatan tribe, a collective of over 25,000 individuals. This population was further divided into approximately 30 smaller tribes, each governed by esteemed village leaders. Chief Powhatan, also known as Sakakawea, stood as the apex leader, transcending the authority of other tribal chieftains. However, The Powhatan tribe was far from monolithic. Diversity and distinct characteristics defined each subtribe, contributing to the broader cultural fabric of the group. One of the tribe's most distinctive traditions involved selecting a woman from each tribe to serve as one of Chief Powhatan's wives. At the age of 14, these women transitioned into adulthood, often finding their husbands shortly after. While the notion of being chosen for such a role may appear daunting from a contemporary perspective, within their cultural context, it was considered an immense honor. The ritual ensured that only the most beautiful and intelligent girls would pass on their qualities through their offspring. Children born to the chief were groomed for leadership roles, securing a lineage of capable leaders for the future. Among Chief Powhatan's many wives, one held a unique place in his heart: his favorite daughter, Pocahontas. She exuded an infectious spirit, embodying the nickname her father lovingly bestowed upon her, Pocahontas, which translates to the playful one. Pocahontas' personality resonated deeply with her father, leading him to affectionately refer to her by this moniker. Her joyful nature was manifested in her activities. She could often be found running through the forest, scaling trees, and engaging in cartwheels with her numerous half-siblings. Pocahontas' early life epitomized the Powhatan way of existence, marked by tradition, respect for nature, and a sense of community. As the daughter of Chief Powhatan, she was destined to be a central figure in the tribe's history. Little did she know that her interactions with the burgeoning English colonies would ultimately redefine her destiny, plunging her into a world of conflict, cultural collision, and personal sacrifice. As the fog of history lifts, revealing the harsh realities of Pocahontas' life, one name stands out: John Smith. In the records of colonial history, Smith's account of his interactions with Pocahontas has garnered attention. Yet a closer examination reveals the distortion and exaggeration that taints his narrative. However, when examined critically, Smith's account falters. Historical records of Pocahontas' age at the time suggest that she would have been no more than 9 or 10 years old, a far cry from the mature, strong-willed woman portrayed in Smith's narrative. The very idea of a child intervening in a brutal trial and execution seems implausible in a society where children were shielded from such grim matters. This raises questions about the accuracy and motives behind Smith's depiction of Pocahontas' actions. Smith's account goes beyond distorting Pocahontas' role. It paints Native Americans as savage and irrational. The implication that Chief Powhatan was willing to execute Smith arbitrarily reinforces an image of Native Americans as ruthless and bloodthirsty. This portrayal further perpetuated prevailing colonial biases that justified the colonization of indigenous lands and people. Smith's narrative serves as a stark example of how historical records can be manipulated to suit the narratives and biases of those in power. The glaring inconsistencies in Smith's account become more evident when considering the broader historical context. Pocahontas' true story revolves around the Anglo-Powhatan War, a period of turmoil marked by violence and political maneuvering. Records suggest that Pocahontas' involvement in Smith's life was less about heroism and more about the complex power dynamics between the Powhatan tribe and the English colonists. Smith's narrative conveniently obscures these complexities in favor of a simplified, self-aggrandizing story. Smith's portrayal of Pocahontas can be seen as an attempt to redeem himself in the eyes of his contemporaries and future generations. His reputation was tainted by accusations of incompetence and conflict with fellow colonists. Presenting himself as a victim saved by a native girl cast him in a more sympathetic light, elevating his role in the colony's narrative and obscuring his own actions and decisions during those tumultuous times. The early 1600s ushered in a tumultuous era marked by escalating tensions between English colonists and the indigenous Powhatan tribe, a period now remembered as the Anglo-Powhatan War. In the midst of this conflict, Pocahontas' life took a harrowing turn, forever altering her fate and challenging the idealized narratives that have long surrounded her. As the conflict between the Powhatan tribe and the English colonists intensified, Pocahontas found herself ensnared in a treacherous web of power dynamics and manipulation. Captured by Englishmen seeking to exploit her as leverage against her father, Chief Powhatan, Pocahontas became a pawn in a dangerous game of political maneuvering. Forced into captivity, Pocahontas was stripped of her agency and subjected to the whims of her captors. Her vulnerability was exacerbated by the fact that she had recently given birth to her first child, leaving her physically weakened and emotionally vulnerable. Captain Samuel Argall, a central figure in her abduction, took advantage of this moment of fragility, clandestinely entering Pocahontas' tent under the cover of night. What followed was a shocking betrayal of trust, as Pocahontas, a young woman in the throes of postpartum recovery, endured an unspeakable violation. The true extent of her suffering during this dark period remains obscured by the passage of time, yet the painful reality of her ordeal challenges the romanticized narratives that have persisted through history. John Smith's historical accounts offer scant insight into the horrors Pocahontas endured during her captivity. Her silence speaks volumes, a poignant reminder of the power dynamics that silenced her voice and perpetuated her suffering. Pocahontas' body, once celebrated for its vitality and spirit, became a vessel of pain and degradation, forever challenging the rose-tinted depictions of her era. Pocahontas' abduction was manipulated by her captors to advance their own agendas. Her captivity became a bargaining chip used to force Chief Powhatan into negotiations and concessions. The price of her safety was wielded as a tool of coercion, a grim manifestation of the colonial mindset that exploited vulnerability for political gain. As the English sought to extract weapons and supplies through this sinister leverage, Pocahontas languished into a nightmarish limbo, her dignity and autonomy utterly stripped away. Pocahontas' suffering was further compounded by the isolation she endured, cut off from her family, tribe, and the support systems that had defined her life. The separation from her husband, Kokum, and the tribe's comforting embrace marked an emotional rupture that deepened her anguish. Even in her darkest moments, a ray of sisterly connection emerged when her siblings were finally permitted to visit her. It was during these clandestine encounters that Pocahontas found a voice for the horrors she had endured, sharing the painful truth of her systematic rape at the hands of her English captors. Her abduction and rape cast a long and haunting shadow over her life, a shadow that challenges the romanticized narratives that have shaped her legacy. Stripped away from her family, tribe, and the life she knew, she found herself trapped in a foreign environment under the control of her captors. The emotional detachment from her family and tribe was deeply distressing. Pocahontas was forcibly separated from the tight-knit community that had shaped her sense of love, belonging, and cultural identity. The loss of her community meant she was cut off from the intricate web of support, traditions, and familiar rituals that had always nurtured her emotional well-being. This sudden disconnection left a gaping emotional void. The cultural shock and disorientation she experienced in English society only intensified her sense of isolation. The language, customs, and values of the English settlers were alien to her, making her feel like an outsider in a world she could hardly comprehend. The open spaces and close relationship with nature that were central to her Native American upbringing were replaced by the foreignness of English surroundings, deepening her feelings of displacement. A key element of her depression was the loss of agency and control. Pocahontas was confined against her will, her days dictated by her captors. Locked in the confines of a jail cell on a ship, she was denied the freedom she once enjoyed in her homeland. The stark contrast between the open spaces of her tribal environment and the claustrophobic confines of her captivity would have been jarring. Beyond the physical aspect, the psychological shackles that came with her captivity were equally binding. Stripped of her agency, she was subjected to the will of her captors, contributing to the pervasive sense of helplessness. The isolation she experienced was not just spatial, it was emotional and cultural as well. Separated from her family, tribe, and familiar customs, Pocahontas was forced to navigate an unfamiliar English society that was inherently foreign to her. The language barrier further intensified her isolation, leaving her unable to communicate her thoughts, needs, and emotions effectively. This cultural estrangement added layers of complexity to her captivity, fueling her sense of being an outsider in an environment that could never truly understand her experiences. The trauma Pocahontas endured during her captivity was unrelenting. The shock of her abduction, the loss of her family and homeland, and the deprivation of her agency were compounded by the emotional manipulation employed by her captors. The lies propagated by John Smith and others distorted her understanding of the situation, leaving her trapped in a web of deceit. This ongoing psychological trauma likely fueled her depression, intensifying her feelings of hopelessness and despair. The emotional toil of her confinement was profound. The trauma of being torn away from her family and tribe, coupled with the distress of adapting to an unfamiliar culture, took a significant toll on her mental well-being. Coping mechanisms such as withdrawal, emotional detachment, and depression likely became her ways of navigating the overwhelming reality of her captivity. Despite the immense challenges she faced, Pocahontas' resilience shone through. Her determination to survive and maintain a connection with her roots was evident in her attempt to communicate with her sister and convey her longing for home. These actions showcased her unwavering spirit even in the face of debilitating trauma and confinement. Accounts of Pocahontas' pre-captivity personality portrayed her as lively, joyful, and full of laughter. However, during her captivity, the spark that defined her seemed to dim significantly. The infectious laughter that once echoed through her days was replaced by a heavy silence as the trauma she endured took a toll on her spirit. Perhaps the most agonizing aspect was her desperate longing for home. Separated from her family and homeland, Pocahontas yearned for the warmth of familiar connections, the comfort of tribal gatherings, and the familiarity of landscapes that held her cherished memories. The realization that she might never reunite with her loved ones or return to the places that defined her sense of self added to her emotional distress, creating a constant ache in her heart. Her story stands as a stark reminder of the brutality inflicted upon Indigenous peoples in the ruthless pursuit of power, dominance, and colonial expansion. Her suffering speaks to the broader context of exploration and the traumatic impact of colonization on the lives of countless individuals who found themselves caught in the crossfire of a ruthless colonial machine. As Pocahontas' story unfolds, one cannot help but wonder, did marriage to John Rolfe offer her a reprieve from the torment of her past, or was it simply another chapter in her complex narrative? Comment below what you think the answer is. Pocahontas' marriage to John Rolfe was no ordinary romance. It was a calculated move by both English colonists and Powhatan leaders to establish a sense of unity and cooperation. Upon closer scrutiny, his account unravels to expose layers of distortion, exaggeration, and manipulation that cast a shadow over the veracity of his claims. John Rolfe, a tobacco farmer, played a pivotal role in the economic interest of the Jamestown colony. Their marriage, which took place in April 1614, brought together two individuals from vastly different backgrounds with the aim of fostering amicable relations between the Powhatan tribe and the English settlers. Pocahontas' arrival in England was accompanied by a profound transformation that extended beyond her physical appearance. She was baptized and given the English name Rebecca. This act of conversion was not just symbolic, it was a tangible manifestation of the assimilation efforts imposed on Indigenous people during the colonial era. Pocahontas' new identity was carefully curated to align with European norms, signaling a delicate balance between preserving her heritage and conforming to the expectations of her new society. Pocahontas' presence in England captured the imagination of the public, and her story was propagated through various forms of media. Portraits were commissioned to depict her in European attire, often emphasizing her exoticism and delicate beauty. These artistic representations contributed to the perpetuation of a romanticized narrative. one that downplayed the darker aspects of her life and elevated her to the status of a noble savage, a living testament to successful intercultural relations. Pocahontas' interactions with English nobility highlighted her role as an ambassador of sorts, tasked with bridging the gap between indigenous cultures and European societies. Her meeting with Queen Anne and King James was a significant moment in her journey. These encounters were not mere social events. They held political weight, serving as a means to advocate for peaceful coexistence and to challenge prevailing notions of indigenous inferiority. Pocahontas' grace and diplomacy challenged preconceived notions, paving the way for a more nuanced understanding of Native American peoples. Despite her noble efforts, Pocahontas' life in England was marked by a poignant moment of loss and yearning. Separated from her homeland and family, she struggled to reconcile her new life with the memories of her past. Her son, Thomas Rolfe, born in 1615, represented both a connection to her native roots and a testament to the intricacies of her identity. Tragically, Pocahontas' health began to deteriorate during her voyage to Virginia in 1617. She passed away at the age of 21, leaving behind a legacy fraught with hardship and courage. Pocahontas' legacy transcends the confines of her time, resonating with contemporary discussions surrounding identity, colonization, and cultural exchange. Her life embodies the complexities of historical narratives, exposing the layers of power dynamics and the human cost of colonial ambitions. Pocahontas' story stands as a reminder that behind the veneer of romanticized myths lies the struggle of individuals who navigated treacherous waters in search of understanding and unity. In remembering Pocahontas, we must honor not only her resilience, but also recognize the collective resilience of indigenous peoples who have endured centuries of oppression. By acknowledging the untold, messed up true story of Pocahontas, we can take steps towards a more honest reckoning with history, amplifying marginalized voices and fostering a deeper understanding of the complexities of the past. Her legacy continues to provoke thought and conversation, encouraging us to confront the untold stories that shape our collective history. If we turn back time and actually get into the hidden side of American history, few figures stand as tall and as inspiring as Sakakawea, a name that resonates with courage, resilience, and the spirit of adventure. Her life, intricately woven into the tapestry of the American West, remains a captivating tale of triumph over adversity and the unbreakable bonds that connect humanity across cultures and time. Sakakawea, born into the Shoshone tribe in what is now Idaho around 1788, emerged from a childhood marked by the tranquility of tribal life. Yet, her journey took a dramatic turn when, at a tender age, she became a victim of abduction and enslavement. It was a harrowing beginning for a young girl who would go on to become one of the most iconic features of the early 19th century. The intrigue of Sakakawea's life story lies not only in her indomitable spirit, but also in the pivotal role she played in the Lewis and Clark expedition, an epic exploration of the uncharted American West. As we deep dive into the untold aspects of her history, we find ourselves asking questions that resonate through the corridors of history. What drove this young Shoshonen woman to venture into the unknown alongside a team of intrepid explorers? What hardships did she endure during her captivity and her time with the expedition? How did she become a symbol of hope and unity in a world fraught with challenges? In the vast expanse of what would become the United States in the late 18th century, the young Shoshone girl named Sakakawea came into this world. Her birth year is estimated to be around 1788, but her life would soon take a tragic turn that would leave an indelible mark on American history. Sakakawea was born into the Shoshone tribe, a native people who roamed the rugged terrain of what is now Idaho. The land was her playground, and the vast wilderness her classroom. But her carefree childhood would be short-lived. At the tender age of 11 or 12, tragedy struck. Sakakawea, along with her family and fellow tribespeople, was in a Shoshone hunting camp near Three Forks, Montana. In an abrupt and brutal turn of events, their peaceful existence was shattered when a group of Hidatsa, a Siouan tribe, descended upon them in a deadly raid. In the chaos and bloodshed that followed, 4 Shoshonen men, 4 Shoshonen women, and several boys were mercilessly killed. Among the survivors was young Sakakawea, now orphaned and scarred by the horrors of that fateful day. The Hidatsa, conquerors of the Shoshone camp, had more in store for Sakakawea than just sparing her life. They took her captive, forcibly separating her from her people and her homeland. Her life took a dark and tragic turn as she became a victim of enslavement at the hands of her captors. Imagine the unimaginable for a moment. A child of 11 or 12, her world forever altered, forced to march along her captors as they journeyed 500 miles from Montana to North Dakota. She endured this grueling journey, a stark contrast to her once carefree days in the Shoshone camp. As if her life couldn't get any worse, one fateful day, a French trapper made his way into the Hidatsa village where Sakakawea was held against her will. This enigmatic figure, a stranger to the Native American world that surrounded him, arrived as if by fate. His presence would change the course of Sakakawea's life in ways she could scarcely have imagined. The circumstances of his arrival were as peculiar as they were cruel. The French trapper engaged the Hidatsa in a gambling game, a wager that would determine the fate of young Sakakawea. It was a game of chance that would shape her destiny, and fortune favored the trapper. In an unthinkable exchange, the Hidatsa, driven by their debt, gave away Sakakawea to the French trapper. At this point in her tragic journey, Sakakawea was around 12 or 13 years old, a child who had already endured unimaginable hardship. Now, she was thrust into the hands of a man who would become her captor, a man who would further entrench the nightmare of her enslavement. With her transfer to the French trapper, Sakakawea's life took an even darker turn. She had already experienced the trauma of being torn from her family and the brutality of being taken captive by the Hidatsa. Now, she was ensnared in a web of exploitation that defied comprehension. The French trapper had already acquired another Shoshone captive girl, known as Otter Woman, from the Hidatsa. He referred to both of these young girls as his wives. However, the stark reality was far more sinister. This so-called marriage was nothing short of a formalized child rape arrangement, an abhorrent agreement brokered and sanctioned by adults. Sakakawea, at a tragically young age, became a victim of continual rape and involuntary pregnancies. By the age of 14, she had conceived a child, and her life would soon intersect with one of the most significant journeys in American history, the Lewis and Clark Expedition. In the winter of 1804 to 1805, Lewis and Clark, leading an expedition commissioned by the US government, arrived at the Hidatsa village. Little did they know that the pregnant enslaved girl in their midst would play a crucial role in their journey westward. Sakakawea's captor, her so-called husband, negotiated a fee for her services as a Shoshone translator, a fee that would be paid to him, not her. Despite her invaluable contributions, Sakakawea never received compensation for her work, or did she? Comment below what you think the answer is. The Lewis and Clark Expedition, officially known as the Corps of Discovery, stands as one of the most extraordinary and daring adventures in American history and a pivotal moment for Sakakawea. Launched in 1804, this epic journey was commissioned by President Thomas Jefferson and led by two intrepid explorers, Meriwether Lewis and William Clark. It aimed to traverse the uncharted western territories of the newly acquired Louisiana Purchase, with the ultimate goal of reaching the Pacific Ocean. The visionary president and his ambitious plan. The origins of the expedition can be traced back to President Jefferson's visionary aspirations for westward expansion. With the Louisiana Purchase of 1803, the United States acquired a vast expanse of uncharted territory, doubling the size of the nation. Jefferson, an avid naturalist and keen explorer, saw this as an opportunity to unravel the mysteries of the West, discover new trade routes, and establish American sovereignty over these uncharted lands. Meriwether Lewis, a former Army captain and personal secretary to President Jefferson, was chosen to lead the expedition. Lewis was a man of diverse talents, possessing skills in botany, zoology, and cartography, making him well suited for the scientific objectives of the journey. William Clark, a skilled frontiersman and soldier, was selected as co-leader. His extensive knowledge of wilderness survival, map-making, and diplomacy made him the perfect complement to Lewis' scientific expertise. Lewis and Clark meticulously assembled a diverse team of individuals to accompany them on their journey. This group, known as the Corps of Discovery, consisted of soldiers, interpreters, boatmen, and an African-American slave named York. On May 14, 1804, the expedition embarked from St. Louis, Missouri, aboard a flotilla of vessels, including the keelboat, pirogues, and canoes. Their mission was twofold: to explore the vast unknown territory, collecting valuable scientific data about its flora and fauna, and to establish diplomatic relations with the indigenous peoples they encountered. The journey began with a treacherous ascent of the Missouri River. The corps faced numerous challenges, including powerful currents, harsh weather conditions, and the ever-present threat of hostile encounters with Native American tribes. Their progress was slow, and they often had to resort to brute force to tow their boats against the relentless flow of the river. In the winter of 1804 to 1805, the corps reached Fort Montana, located in present-day North Dakota. Here, they decided to spend the harsh winter months forging alliances with the Mandan and Hidatsa tribes. During this time, Sakakawea gave birth to her son, Jean-Baptiste Charbonneau, who would become the youngest member of the expedition. Sakakawea's presence was invaluable to the expedition. Not only did she serve as an interpreter, mediating between the corps and various Native American tribes, but her knowledge of the land and its resources was indispensable. She was also a symbol of peace, as her presence often reassured tribes that the corps came in friendship rather than as a threat. After arduous months of travel and countless trials, the corps finally reached the Pacific Ocean in November 1805. They established Fort Clatsop near present-day Astoria, Oregon, where they spent the winter of 1805 to 1806. During this time, the explorers documented the natural wonders of the region, cataloged new species, and expanded their knowledge of the West. In the spring of 1806, the corps began their return journey. They retraced their steps, navigating the treacherous terrain and surviving encounters with grizzly bears, hostile tribes, and extreme weather conditions. Along the way, they split into smaller groups to explore more territory and gather additional data. As the epic Lozen expedition drew to a close, Sakakawea's remarkable journey through the uncharted American West took a final, heart-wrenching turn. Despite her invaluable contributions to the success of the expedition, her story would end in tragedy, revealing the harsh realities of her life. After nearly 2.5 years of grueling travel, exploration, and discovery, the Corps of Discovery finally reached their journey's end. They had achieved their monumental goal of reaching the Pacific Ocean, marking a historic milestone in the exploration of the American continent. The vast, uncharted territories of the West had been documented, mapped, and opened to future pioneers. After the arduous trek to the Pacific Ocean, the Corps of Discovery needed a place to hunker down for the winter. It was November 1805 that they erected Fort Clatsop, a modest fortification constructed from logs and covered with wooden shingles. The fort was situated near the mouth of the Columbian River, providing shelter from the elements and a degree of security. The winter at Fort Clatsop represented a much-needed period of rest and preparation for the explorers. The harsh journey westward, filled with perilous encounters, unpredictable weather, and the constant need to procure food and supplies, had taken a toll on the expedition members. At Fort Clatsop, the Corps of Discovery could finally catch their breath and recover their strength. They busied themselves with the necessary tasks, such as preparing equipment, sewing clothing, and meticulously recording their observations in journals. The relative safety of the fort allowed them to tend to their physical and mental well-being. During this period of respite, a momentous event occurred within the fort's walls. Sakakawea, the young Shoshone woman who had been an indispensable member of the expedition, gave birth to her second child, a daughter. This birth, amidst the backdrop of the expedition's challenges and uncertainties, added a touch of humanity and hope to the harsh frontier landscape. Sakakawea's experience as a mother in the midst of such adversity underscores her incredible resilience. She cared for her infant daughter while still contributing to the expedition's efforts, including her vital roles as an interpreter and mediator with Native American tribes they encountered. The birth of Sakakawea's daughter at Fort Clatsop serves as a poignant reminder of the human experience in the face of the untamed wilderness. In the midst of their journey to conquer the unknown, the members of the expedition found solace in the simple joys of family life. As the winter of 1805 to 1806 gradually gave way to spring, the expedition prepared to continue their journey, now with the added responsibility of caring for an infant. The challenges that lay ahead were formidable, but the birth of Sakakawea's daughter at Fort Clatsop would remain a testament to the enduring spirit of those who braved the American frontier. In the spring of 1806, the Corps of Discovery began their return journey, retracing their steps and facing the same perils they had encountered on the outbound leg of their expedition. It was a challenging journey, marked by encounters with grizzly bears, treacherous river crossings, and the constant threat of hostilities with Native American tribes. As the expedition made its way back to the settled Eastern Territories, Sakakawea's tragic fate took shape. She was not destined to enjoy the acclaim and recognition that her contributions warranted. By the time the expedition reached the Fort Mandan area in North Dakota in 1806, Sakakawea's health had deteriorated significantly. She had endured the harsh conditions of the expedition, including extreme weather, arduous physical labor, and inadequate nutrition. Her body had been pushed to its limits. After the Lewis and Clark expedition had returned from its monumental journey, Sakakawea found herself residing in a fur trading post located in what is now South Dakota. Her life at the trading post was a far cry from the adventurous spirit and newfound freedom she had briefly tasted during the expedition. Throughout her time at the trading post, Sakakawea yearned to be reunited with her Shoshone people, who had settled in what is modern-day Wyoming. Her heart ached for her native culture and her family, from whom she had been separated since childhood. However, her desperate pleas to return home would remain unanswered. It was during this period that Sakakawea's life took a tragic turn. She fell seriously ill, and the exact cause of her illness remains a subject of debate among historians. Some suggest that she succumbed to typhus, a disease transmitted by body lice and associated with poor hygiene and living conditions. Others propose that she may have suffered from a venereal disease, possibly contracted from her French trapper husband, Toussaint Charbonneau. As Sakakawea battled her illness, her condition grew increasingly dire. She was weakened by fever, pain, and the ravages of disease. Her strength, which had carried her through the arduous journey of the Lewis and Clark expedition, was waning. In her final days, Sakakawea's thoughts may have turned to her children, Jean-Baptiste Charbonneau and her daughter Lisette, whom she had brought into the world amid the wilderness. It is said that she longed for a reunion with her son, who had been taken in by Meriwether Lewis and received an education. With great sadness, Sakakawea passed away at the fur trading post, her life cut short at the tender age of around 25. Her death marked the end of a journey that had seen her endure enslavement, forced labor, and unimaginable hardships. While the circumstances of her death were undeniably tragic, Sakakawea's legacy endures as a symbol of resilience, courage, and determination. Born into the Shoshone tribe in the rugged wilderness of what is now Idaho, Sakakawea's early life was one of cultural richness and familial bonds. Her childhood was filled with the teachings of her people, the knowledge of survival in the wilderness, and the nurturing care of her family. Sakakawea's years in captivity were arduous and heart-wrenching. Forced to march hundreds of miles from Montana to North Dakota, she endured the physical and emotional trauma of enslavement. Her resilience during this period is a testament to the inner strength that would serve her well in the years to come. Sakakawea's contributions to the success of the Lewis and Clark expedition, her unwavering spirit, and her capability to bridge cultures and forge connections continue to inspire people worldwide. Sakakawea's story reminds us that resilience is not just a quality, it is a testament to the human spirit's capacity to endure, adapt, and ultimately thrive in the face of adversity. Her legacy serves as a beacon of hope, a source of strength, and a symbol of the enduring power of resilience in the American narrative. So, as we learn new things about the untold pages of history, let us remember Sakakawea, a heroine, a survivor, and a beacon of hope. Her story, horrific and awe-inspiring, will forever remind us that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit can shine brilliantly, lighting the way for generations to come. In the turbulent landscape of 19th century America, where pioneers, miners, and the US Army relentlessly pushed westward, the remarkable story of Buffalo Calf Road emerges as a testament to courage, resilience, and the enduring spirit of Native American peoples.
Born into the Northern Cheyenne tribe in the early 1850s, Buffalo Calf Road came of age during a time when the Cheyenne and other native tribes faced the relentless encroachment of settlers on their ancestral lands. Her life, marked by defiance in the face of adversity, prompts us to ponder what drove this young Cheyenne woman to rise as one of the most feared warriors of her time. How did she become the only woman to fight in the Battle of Little Bighorn? What compelled her to endure a grueling journey of over 1,500 miles on foot, pursued relentlessly by the US Army? Let's take it back in time to the early 1850s, a time when the Cheyenne people still roamed freely across the vast plains of North America. Buffalo Calf Road, a name that would echo through history, was born into the Northern Cheyenne tribe. Little is known about her early life, but as she came of age in the Cheyenne culture, she would prove to be a force to be reckoned with, ultimately earning her place as one of the most formidable and revered Cheyenne warriors. The turning point in Buffalo Calf Road's life came in 1876, as the Cheyenne found themselves caught in the maelstrom of westward expansion. The Battle of the Rosebud, a prelude to the infamous Battle of Little Bighorn, marked her dramatic entry into the historical stage. General George Crook and his soldiers were advancing toward the Cheyenne village, and the warriors prepared to defend their people. In a society where female warriors were not common, Buffalo Calf Road made a remarkable decision. Despite some opposition to a woman joining the ranks of the warriors, she mounted her horse and rode out to meet the impending threat. Her actions that day defied societal norms and set her apart as a fearless and determined individual. As the Battle of the Rosebud raged on, Buffalo Calf Road fought valiantly alongside her fellow Cheyenne warriors. However, it was a moment of extraordinary heroism that would forever etch her name in the annals of Cheyenne history. Amidst the chaos of battle, she spotted her brother, comes in sight, trapped in a gully and surrounded by enemy soldiers. Without hesitation, Buffalo Calf Road charged down into the gully, bullets flying around her, and executed a daring rescue. She pulled her brother onto her horse and ferried him to safety, a feat that left witnesses in awe. Her bravery, in the face of overwhelming odds, not only saved her brother, but also inspired those who had initially hesitated. The battle would come to be known as the battle where the girl saved her brother, and Buffalo Calf Road earned the title of Brave Woman. The Battle of Little Bighorn, one of the most famous clashes in American history, unfolded in June 1876 and marked a critical moment in the westward expansion of the United States. At the heart of this historic battle was Buffalo Calf Road, a young Cheyenne warrior woman who had already distinguished herself at the Battle of the Rosebud just days earlier. Despite the inherent dangers and uncertainties of battle, Buffalo Calf Road exhibited unwavering determination and fierce loyalty to her people. Once again, she mounted her horse and rode into the fray alongside her fellow Cheyenne warriors. This battle would cement her status as a legendary warrior, as she became the only woman to participate in the Battle of Little Bighorn. Buffalo Calf Road's presence at the Battle of Little Bighorn was extraordinary, given the predominantly male composition of Native American war parties during that era. Her decision to join the battle defied gender norms and underscored her deep commitment to her people's cause. On that fateful day, Buffalo Calf Road fought with remarkable valor, serving as a symbol of strength and courage for her fellow warriors. Her participation was not a mere novelty, it was a testament to her unyielding spirit and her determination to protect her people and their way of life. Amidst the chaos and intensity of the Battle of Little Bighorn, Buffalo Calf Road's valor shone brightly once again. In the heat of battle, she demonstrated extraordinary heroism when she came to the aid of a young Cheyenne warrior who had lost his horse, leaving him vulnerable to enemy fire. Buffalo Calf Road's swift and daring action during this critical moment cannot be overstated. She fearlessly rode into the midst of the battle, amidst flying bullets and the cacophony of war, and executed a dramatic rescue that saved the young warrior's life. Her selfless act epitomized the spirit of camaraderie and sacrifice that defined the Cheyenne warriors and their unwavering commitment to each other. The Battle of Little Bighorn ended with a stunning victory for the Native American forces, but it came at a high cost. Buffalo Calf Road's bravery and heroism during this battle further solidified her status as a legendary Cheyenne warrior. In the years following the Battle of Little Bighorn, the Cheyenne people found themselves in a relentless struggle against the encroaching forces of westward expansion, punctuated by one tragic event after another. One of the most harrowing episodes occurred when their village was brutally attacked in the early morning hours. The attack, which took place in the late 1870s, was characterized by its sheer brutality. Soldiers descended upon the Cheyenne village with overwhelming force, leaving destruction and devastation in their wake. More than 40 Cheyenne individuals lay dead in the aftermath, and many others were wounded. The village itself was reduced to ashes, erasing generations of Cheyenne history and culture. Buffalo Calf Road, like her fellow Cheyenne, was forced to confront the unimaginable hardships that followed the attack on their village. Driven from their ancestral lands, the Cheyenne were left without blankets, adequate clothing, or food as they embarked on a treacherous journey. Despite the dire circumstances, Buffalo Calf Road exemplified unwavering determination and resilience. She refused to surrender to the oppressive forces that sought to subdue her people. While many Cheyenne eventually surrendered, Buffalo Calf Road, who was pregnant at the time, held out with a small group of approximately 30 Cheyenne who were considered hostile by the US government. Her decision to resist, even in the face of extreme hardship, was emblematic of her commitment to her people's survival and the preservation of their way of life. Buffalo Calf Road's indomitable spirit inspired those around her and continued to make her a symbol of courage and defiance. Amidst the tumultuous and perilous journey, Buffalo Calf Road faced the added challenge of giving birth to her second child. The conditions in which she found herself were far from ideal, with inadequate shelter, scarce food, and the constant threat of pursuit by the US Army. The birth of her child during this tumultuous period highlighted Buffalo Calf Road's extraordinary strength and maternal devotion. She had to navigate the harsh realities of childbirth without the comforts and safety of her village. The challenges she faced were not only physical, but also emotional, as she grappled with the uncertainties of her people's future. Despite these formidable obstacles, Buffalo Calf Road's determination to protect her family and her people never wavered. Her actions during this period showcased her underlying spirit and her enduring commitment to the Cheyenne's struggle for survival and self-determination. As the Cheyenne people faced relentless pressure from the US Army and endured the tragic consequence of the attack on their village, Buffalo Calf Road and a small group of approximately 30 Cheyenne, considered hostiles by the US government, made a daring decision to escape and embark on a treacherous journey back to their ancestral lands. The escape was carried out under the cover of night, a perilous endeavor that required stealth and determination. These individuals were determined to regain their freedom and to return to their homeland despite the daunting odds stacked against them. The journey that Buffalo Calf Road and her small band of Cheyenne undertook was nothing short of a grueling odyssey. With the US Army in relentless pursuit, they had no choice but to travel on foot, navigating the unforgiving terrain of the Great Plains and enduring harsh weather conditions. Covering a distance of over 1,500 miles, the journey tested their physical endurance and mental fortitude to the limits. They faced countless challenges, including scarcity of food and water, exposure to the elements, and the constant threat of encounters with hostile forces. Despite these immense hardships, Buffalo Calf Road and her companions pressed onward, driven by an unwavering determination to reach their homeland and live free from the constraints imposed upon them. The US Army's relentless pursuit of Buffalo Calf Road and her group cast a constant shadow over their arduous journey. At every turn, they were at risk of being discovered, and encounters with the military were frequent and perilous. These encounters often escalated into battles, as Buffalo Calf Road and her companions were determined to defend themselves and their quest for freedom. The Cheyenne warriors displayed remarkable bravery as they engaged in skirmishes with US soldiers who sought to apprehend them. The battles they faced were not only physical, but also symbolic. Each confrontation represented the clash of two worlds. One, a people fighting for their right to exist on ancestral lands, and the other, a powerful nation determined to assert its dominance. Buffalo Calf Road's unwavering commitment to her people's cause was evident in her readiness to stand and fight despite the overwhelming odds. As Buffalo Calf Road and her small band of Cheyenne continued their arduous journey to escape the relentless pursuit of the US Army, a division emerged within the group. Differences in opinion and strategies for survival led to a heart-wrenching decision to part ways. One faction, led by Chief Dullknife, believed that seeking refuge among the Lakota in Red Cloud's village would provide safety and shelter from the pursuing US forces. Their hope was that their Lakota allies would protect them from the Army's grasp. Conversely, Buffalo Calf Road and her followers held a different perspective. They decided not to place their trust entirely in the Lakota and chose to seek sanctuary in the vast and remote sand hills of Nebraska, a place they believed the US Army would find difficult to reach. Chief Dullknife's group, having taken a different path, believed that seeking refuge with the Lakota would offer the best chance of survival. However, their hopes were tragically shattered. The US Army, relentless in its pursuit, managed to capture Dullknife's band, imprisoning them at Fort Robinson. The conditions at Fort Robinson were harsh and inhumane. The incarcerated Cheyenne were subjected to deprivation of food and water, leading to immense suffering. In a desperate bid for freedom, they made a daring escape on a bitterly cold day, only to face a horrific fate. The US soldiers mercilessly opened fire on them, resulting in the massacre of over 65 Cheyenne men, women, and children. The tragedy that befell Dullknife's group stands as a somber reminder of the brutality faced by Native American communities during this period of history, as well as the lengths to which they would go in their quest for freedom and survival. Buffalo Calf Road, and those who chose to follow her, found a temporary sanctuary amidst the sprawling and desolate sand hills of Nebraska. This remote and unforgiving landscape provided some degree of protection from the relentless pursuit of the US Army. Surviving in the sandhills was a formidable challenge. Food and resources were scarce, and the group had to rely on their resourcefulness and knowledge of the land to eke out an existence. Despite these hardships, they managed to evade capture for a time, living off the land and their collective strength. While their stay in the sandhills offered a respite from immediate danger, the specter of the US Army continued to loom large, and Buffalo Calf Road and her companions knew that their journey was far from over. The split within the group and the contrasting fates of Chief Dullknife's band and Buffalo Calf Road's followers underscored the complex decisions and dire circumstances faced by Native American communities as they sought to evade the relentless encroachment of the US government and secure their freedom and way of life. As Buffalo Calf Road and her small group of Cheyenne continued to evade the relentless pursuit of the US Army, her husband faced a gradual descent into madness. The extreme hardships and constant threat of capture had taken a toll on his mental and emotional well-being. The strain of their precarious existence, coupled with the overwhelming challenges they encountered on their journey, had a profound impact on Buffalo Calf Road's husband. Tragically, this descent into madness culminated in a heated argument that led to a devastating outcome. In a moment of turmoil, he killed a fellow Cheyenne named Black Crane. The consequences of this act were dire, as it further fractured the already vulnerable group and created an environment of mistrust and danger. Buffalo Calf Road and her children were forced to separate from her husband, compounding the difficulties they faced on their journey. Despite their resourcefulness and determination, Buffalo Calf Road and her party could not evade the US Army indefinitely. The relentless pursuit and increasing pressure from US forces eventually led to their capture. Once apprehended, Buffalo Calf Road's party was imprisoned at Fort Keogh, a military post that was notorious for its harsh conditions and lack of basic necessities. The transition from a life on the run to captivity marked a bleak and distressing chapter in their journey. The imprisonment of Buffalo Calf Road and her companions symbolized the crushing weight of US government policies that sought to subdue and control Native American communities. Their freedom, hard won through arduous journeys and battles, had been stripped away, leaving them vulnerable to the hardships of captivity. Tragically, Buffalo Calf Road's journey, marked by trials and tribulations, would conclude in a heartbreak. During her captivity at Fort Keogh, she fell victim to a devastating and highly contagious disease, diphtheria. Diphtheria, an illness that had ravaged Native American communities due to their lack of immunity to European diseases, claimed Buffalo Calf Road's life. The disease's symptoms, which included severe respiratory distress and weakness, made her final days incredibly painful. Despite the valiant battles she had fought and the remarkable resilience she had displayed throughout her life, Buffalo Calf Road succumbed to the ravages of diphtheria. Her death marked the end of an era for this courageous Cheyenne warrior and symbolized the broader tragedy of diseases brought by European contact, which had decimated Native American populations. Buffalo Calf Road's life and her tragic end serves as a poignant reminder of the profound challenges and injustices faced by Native American communities during a tumultuous period in history. Her legacy lives on as a testament to the strength, resilience, and sacrifice of those who sought to protect their people and way of life in the face of overwhelming adversity. Buffalo Calf Road's remarkable journey through the tumultuous era of westward expansion leaves an indelible mark on the pages of history. Her life, filled with moments of bravery, resilience, and sacrifice, paints a vivid picture of the trials faced by Native American communities during a period of immense upheaval. Throughout her life, Buffalo Calf Road defied gender norms, emerging as a symbol of unwavering determination and courage. From her fearless participation in the Battle of the Rosebud to her iconic role as the only woman warrior in the Battle of Little Bighorn, she challenged the status quo, proving that strength knows no gender boundaries. Her saga of escape, spanning over 1,500 miles on foot amidst the relentless pursuit by the US Army, underscores the lengths to which she and her companions went to preserve their way of life. They sought refuge in the harsh terrain of the sandhills of Nebraska, where they faced countless hardships but also found temporary sanctuary. However, Buffalo Calf Road's story is not just one of triumphs and hardships. It is a reflection of the broader narrative of Native American resilience. It speaks to the enduring spirit of a people who, in the face of adversity, clung to their traditions and fought valiantly to protect their lands, culture, and families. A narrative of captivity, assimilation, and an unyielding yearning for home. It is the untold story of Cynthia Ann Parker, a woman whose life unfolded as a profound testament to the human capacity for adaptation and resilience. Born in 1827 in Illinois, Cynthia Ann's earlier years held no hint of the extraordinary destiny that awaited her. Yet, her life took a fateful turn when her family joined the frontier settlers in Texas, seeking a new life on the American frontier. It was here, amidst the tensions and tragedies of the Texas frontier, that Cynthia Ann found herself captured by the Comanche during the notorious Fort Parker massacre of 1836. From this point forward, Cynthia Ann's life became a remarkable journey of assimilation into Comanche society as she adopted their customs, language, and even married a Comanche chief, Peta Nocona. Cynthia Ann Parker was born to Silas Mercer Parker and Lucinda Parker, nee Duty, in Crawford County, Illinois, on October 28, 1827. Her family was of European descent and had settled in Illinois, far from the rugged frontier of Texas. Her earlier life in Illinois was marked by a simple and relatively peaceful existence. Originally, her middle name was Anna, but over time it was changed to Ann. Cynthia Ann's grandfather, John Parker, played a significant role in the family's history. He was a well-known ranger, scout, and soldier for the United States. He had been instrumental in negotiating treaties with local Native American tribes,
believing these treaties would protect the settlers. Little did he know that these treaties would not bind all Native American bands, especially the highly decentralized Comanche. In the early 1830s, the Parker family, led by John Parker, received a call to establish a settlement in north-central Texas. The motivation behind this move was to create a fortified community that could withstand Comanche raids, which had been causing devastation among the Euro-American settlers in Texas and northern Mexico. They sought safety and the opportunity to build a new life on the Texas frontier. The Parker family, along with their extended kin and other families, established a fortified settlement with blockhouses and a central citadel, later named Fort Parker. This fort was situated on the headwaters of the Navasota River, which is now located in Limestone County, Texas. Little did they know that this move would lead to a tragic event that forever changed the life of Cynthia Ann. The Fort Parker Massacre, which occurred on May 19, 1836, was a catastrophic event that shattered the peace and tranquility of the Parker family and the other settlers at the fort. A formidable force of Native American warriors, estimated to be between 100 and 600 in number, composed of Comanche, Kiowa, and Kichai allies, launched an attack on the community. John Parker and his men, who had underestimated the military prowess of the Comanche and were unprepared for their ferocity, fought desperately to protect the women and children as they retreated into the safety of the fort. Unfortunately, the Comanche quickly overpowered the outnumbered defenders and breached the fort's defenses. During the attack, Cynthia Ann Parker, a young girl at the time, along with 5 other captives, were taken by the Comanche and carried back into Comanche territory. The settlers mounted a rescue effort, and over the years, the Comanche released some captives after receiving ransoms. However, Cynthia Ann was adopted by the Comanche family and became thoroughly assimilated into their culture. She was estimated to be around 9 years old when she was taken captive, and her life would never be the same again. She was taken in by a Tenowish Comanche couple who raised her as their own daughter. During her time with them, her name was changed to Nadwa, which means someone found or was found in Comanche. This renaming symbolized her new identity and her integration into Comanche culture. She embraced Comanche customs, beliefs, and traditions, and her attachment to her adopted family grew stronger with each passing day. Cynthia Ann's life took a significant turn when she married Peta Nokona, a prominent Comanche chief. Their union was a testament to her complete assimilation into Comanche society. Despite it being customary for chieftains to have multiple wives, Nokona remained devoted to Cynthia Ann and did not take another wife. This marriage not only solidified her status within the tribe, but also gave her a place of importance as the wife of a chief. Cynthia Ann and Peta Nokona had 3 children together: sons Quana, who would later become the last free Comanche chief, and Picos or Pecan, and a daughter named Topsana, which means prairie flower. These children were a testament to Cynthia Ann's deep connection to her Comanche family and her role as a mother within the tribe. Quanah Parker's legacy would continue to shape the history of the Comanche people long after Cynthia Ann's eventual return to European American society, as he became a significant figure in Native American history and the struggle to preserve Comanche culture in the face of encroaching westward expansion. The Texas Rangers' discovery of Cynthia Ann and the Battle of Peace River marked a pivotal moment in Cynthia Ann Parker's life. In December 1860, after years of searching, a band of Texas Rangers led by Lawrence Sullivan Ross located a group of Comanche deep within the heart of Comancheria, rumored to hold American captives, including Cynthia Ann. In the daring and unexpected raid, the Rangers attacked this Comanche group in what would be known as the Battle of Peace River. During this battle, a woman was spotted riding alongside a Comanche leader. As the Rangers closed in, she held a child over her head in an apparent attempt to shield herself from harm. The Rangers surrounded and captured her, and it was soon revealed that this woman was none other than Cynthia Ann Parker. Her discovery and capture brought her back into the spotlight of the European American society from which she had been separated for nearly a quarter century. Cynthia Ann's return to her biological family was met with mixed emotions. While some members of her extended family were overjoyed to have her back, Cynthia Ann herself was reluctant to leave behind the Comanche life she had come to know and love. She had become entirely assimilated into their culture and had a family of her own. Her return was not voluntary. She was taken back against her will. This separation from her Comanche family left her with a profound sense of loss and a deep yearning for the life she had left behind. The challenges of reintegration into European American society were immense for Cynthia Ann. She had spent the majority of her life living as a Comanche, speaking their language, adhering to their customs, and raising a family within their tribe. Now, she was thrust back into society that felt foreign to her. Despite efforts by her biological family and the Texas government to facilitate her transition, Cynthia Ann struggled to adapt. She found it difficult to communicate in English and was uncomfortable with the attention she received as a returned captive. Her brother, Silas Jr., took her into his home in Van Sant County, but even there, she couldn't escape the sense of displacement. If you like this video, make sure to like it, comment and subscribe, and stay tuned for our upcoming videos.